gonna go with the flow yet again because it's part of the Dark Empath path. Part of the Dark Empath path. Wow, that's a lot more complicated than I thought it would be. Anyway. So, what I'm doing, if you're unfamiliar, I'm just going to clear the energy of this deck. This is, since we're doing a Dark Empath video, I just decided, you know what, I haven't used my Dark Feminine. It's not necessarily feminine, but I utilize it as my Dark Feminine deck, so I'm just going to clear out the energy for this one. And I'm also going to use my Oracle deck, the new one. I don't know if you're familiar, if you've watched some of my last few videos. I've been using my new Astro Code deck, so basically setting you up for some direction and guidance, general guidance from the Oracle deck, and then some clarity, I don't know how to say this better, but we're gonna get all the details, the finer details in this deck. So to get started, well, I already got started, but I just want you to know that I'm doing things different because it feels different, and I know a lot of people have questions about like tarot reading, what's the proper way, how to do things, and really, to be honest, there really isn't much of a proper way. As long as you know how to basically read cards, you can honestly do tarot with a regular card set, like, you know, like blackjack or whatever, billiards. I don't play cards, I'm sorry. But you know what I mean, like you can read tarot through regular cards. I don't know if you're aware, if anybody taught you that, but you can. And a lot of people actually originally did that too, so it's just something to think about. But yeah, so the Dark Empath path. It's silly. Okay, I'm probably gonna title this something different. I'm gonna quit saying Dark Empath path. That sounds silly. It's too much paths. Anyway, so it's really about going through trials and tribulation. And I know this sounds bizarre. That sounds a little like off-putting, especially when you talk about like, you know, spiritual things in a religious sense. Basically, like, you know, this is not to like knock religions or anything, but at the same time, I don't really follow a path of religion. Like, I'm not Christian, I'm not Wiccan, I'm not pagan, I'm not any of these like specific belief systems. I know that sounds also hippie-ish and vague, but at the same time, I'm a thinker. I like studying. I like trying new things. I like experiencing new things, and I like understanding things better. And so when I put all these like labels and definitions on things, it's just like it's cool. It is a useful tool to like, you know, understand things. Especially, I mean, if you haven't watched my video, it's like one of my first videos is, you know, all religions are based on astrology, that sort of thing. It brings a lot of things together when you think of things generally, and you don't try to like necessarily like, again, define them in any specific way. They start to make a lot of reflection sense. Like a lot of things are very reflectory of each other. And the universe was made that way specifically so we could understand things better. And so that's why I try to just kind of bring thoughts and ideas together. So, okay, we're going to stick with 4 cards before we get a little too out there. So, yes. So to start off with, it's really about making roots, and this maybe sound like vague as far as like the empath personality, and if you yourself are an empath, you're probably understanding a lot better. Like as soon as you see the root card, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so starting with your roots, you have to really, again, understand things better. You have to be magnetized in a way where you're just connecting with the things that you need to be connected with. And again, that is pretty vague, but at the same time, like, you build your relationships, you build your core foundation of life by understanding the world around you better. Like, we grow up in these public, for the most part, public school systems, and we're just kind of thrown into the mix of people, and we learn things by our environment and by other people around us. So like usually a lot of our personalities depends on the people we correspond and interact with. It's not a defining factor, but it does play a lot of element into, how we our upbringing. So your roots are what's going to like create you. Like your roots are going to define the tree. It's going to be where you're putting yourself into the ground, grounding yourself, and realizing a lot more about yourself. And so you can grow into this. I just planted a tree today. Wow, I just realized that. That's crazy. Whew. I'm having so much big changes. This might be a reading for me, guys. Anyway, I guess I'll share it with you anyway. But so the roots are like your foundation for life. Like it's the tree of life, guys. I know you've heard that. I know you're here for a reason. So the tree of life, it reaches up into the universe and it reflects in beautiful ways because it's a part of the ecosystem. It it takes carbon from the atmosphere and it turns it into oxygen, something like that. It's generally speaking, but you know what I mean? Like it has its place in life. Every tree, every plant has its place in life. It connects with the ecosystem and it's a part of reality. I swear I could almost see a person there for a reason. For a second. Wow, I said that for a reason. I don't know. I think my mind was playing tricks on me because there's definitely not a person there, but I can see like this person holding this up. I'm just saying. Okay, and then collaboration. Again, going back to like, our connections, our relationships, our situationships as well. They create this mental space and they provide us with thoughts, ideas, and concepts that bring reality together. And so it's really about filling up your own cup, but also allowing other people to fill up your cup too. So not in a sense where it's egotistical and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna be the energy vampire in the room and just take from other people. No, it's allowing yourself the space to connect with others by allowing other people to love you and take care of you and correspond with you and interact with you, and that does mean releasing. Like if you have things that are like holding onto your chest and you're not communicating them at least with like a good friend or even a stranger, dude. I've had some intense conversations with complete strangers. I am just saying, like, just reach out and connect with people authentically. Don't force connections either because that's going to give you a spiteful and just pessimistic view on collaboration. That's not what we're talking about. When we're collabing with people, we're being authentic, we're being real, we're being honest, we're being raw, of course, with boundaries in mind. So, respect other people's boundaries, respect that other people have their own lives to live. Don't expect things from others because that's not collaboration and it's not healthy and you're just going to set yourself up for failure. Drink your water today. Okay? So, I'm almost burnt myself. Collabing is really about the aquarial energy of the universe. It's about connecting and having authentic connections. There's almost like, okay, so it's 11. Just think of two stick figures here and their reflections. The water reflects, the two reflects, well, it's 11, but you know what I mean. Like, there's two sticks there. They are almost identical in opposite ways. They're on the opposite side of each other, but they're very similar creatures. They just probably don't even know it because one is a 10 and one is a 1. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to compare things mathematically. It probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense and I probably sound like a crazy person, but I think you know what I'm getting at with the reflection. Like, we have a lot more in common with other people than what we give credit for, and a lot of people we can learn from and understand their experiences and bring it into our own life and make ourselves understand ourselves better through others. So, the collaboration process is really about connections, like strong, authentic, or not even strong, just authentic connections. And that will be through releasing the idea that you're a burden to other people. A lot of us empaths feel like we're a burden to other people because we don't want to share all of these emotions and pour out all of our wounds to other people. But that is a part of the process of healing. Like, that is a very big part. If you're not releasing your emotions, if you're not validating your emotions, as cheesy as that sounds, I don't care if you're a feminine or a masculine. I don't care if you're a king or a queen. Y'all have emotions. Get real with yourselves, okay? Because you ain't lying to me. I can see through it. Okay? We all have emotions. We all need to experience the emotions, the ups and the downs, because it's a part of life, one. It teaches us gratitude, two. And three, it's natural. You're a human. You're allowed to make mistakes, and crying is not a mistake. But you're allowed to make mistakes and make up for things. And like we're way too hard on ourselves. We try to close ourselves off from the world, and hide our emotions and hide our empathy. And you know what? Just being true to yourself is going to get rid of those dry and laggy connections anyway. So just allow yourself, with again respecting boundaries and being true and authentic to like limitations of energy, because sometimes we can be a little much when we're eccentric. And I've gone that way too. It's normal too, but you gotta be careful with things, because you can ruin relationships and friendships by just being all of things all at once to somebody. I hope that makes sense to you. I'm sure it does. And expansion is very important too for the empath, because again, we learn more about ourselves. We learn more through this energy, and we become more of ourselves through this expansion process. So, learning about other people, learning about their emotions in reflection to our emotions allows you the headspace that, hey, I'm a human, first off, and I have limitations too. And sometimes maybe I'm being like either too much, and I don't want to say that too strongly because you're not too much, but sometimes we are a bit much and we just need to chill out, you know? And sometimes we overthink, sometimes we overprocess, and sometimes we allow ourselves to be overstimulated because we just want to be a go getter and take on the world. Virgo here, so I'm just saying, like, you calm down sometimes, because your expansion process doesn't mean you have to do all of these things at once. It just means you need to expand your understanding of things, ground yourself, and be disciplined about your actions. So, like, if you're wanting to expand, like, through creativity, like, you're wanting to be a little more creative, artistic, musical, poetic, like whatever it is, like expand your reach through collaboration and just putting yourself out there in the world, because that's going to allow you to network first, and also to really reach the right people, because we all again have our place in life. This reading, all of these cards go together. I'm just saying. And see your past as not a defining factor, but more of, again, an introspection for yourself. So look towards your past in a healthy way where you're like, oh wow, I did go through all of that. That shit is validated. I experienced it. Whoa. Yeah, I got a strong head on my shoulders, and I should put that to good use. I'm just saying, like, if you really sat down and wrote a letter to yourself, wrote a note to yourself, or just journaled some ideas and some things. Okay, just as a perspective, I wrote some things like a few years back, and I just kind of wrote them on whim when I was feeling something. And it wasn't necessarily a journal, it was more of a narrative, and it was a narrative that allowed me to kind of release some things that were on my mind, and so I turned it into a story. So one, it was creative doing that, and two, it allowed me to release my emotions without revealing so much about myself personally. And it still allowed me to look back at things too, reading that, reading some of my work last night. Like, it allowed me to see myself better, because I'm like, wow, I'm kind of good at writing, firstly. To my own horn. But as well, like, I I looked back and I was like, wow, I went through a lot of things. A lot of bullshit, let's be real. Like, And I grew so much from these past few years, and I went through more trials and tribulation, but it still built my character up, and it still allowed me to be the person I am today. So, without those experiences, without that knowledge, without that understanding, I probably would probably maybe be, no, I don't think I would be the same creature. So it's just a perspective. Apparently these cards are gonna fly out. We're going and switching over to my shadow deck. Well, I guess whatever. Okay, okay, I'm gonna let them all fall on the floor and then I'll just pick them up. Not as we go because that'll get me distracted. There's three. That's what we're gonna stick with. Okay, it's actually a little bit more vague than I was expecting, but I think it brings the oracle cards together, so it's not a big deal. So the Nine of Cups is really about, being content, but also satisfied in a way that's, natural and healthy. You're not overstimulated and you're not destimulated. You're just kind of going through the motions and respectfully still celebrating, life, but in your own way where it's not, eccentric, it's not over the top where you're partying and just splurging and spending all of your money. You know what I mean? Like, it's about celebrating life, like taking care of yourself, taking care of your values, your interests, your likes, your dislikes, and just respecting your shadow too at the same time. And then we got the Three of Cups, which is about wish fulfillment, being satisfied with what's going on around you, and just bringing these things together to create you and create the life that you want. So, these two cards, and then we have the Sun in reversed, which could indicate, that maybe we are sometimes a little eccentric, a little too celebratory when we do celebrate our victories. So, my hair's a little crazy too. So, sometimes we can be a little eccentric, or sometimes we can feel the defeat from the environment around us too, to where we're not, we're kind of stumbling again, or not necessarily falling back into bad habits or anything like that, but the mental space, like it can knock us back sometimes. So, it's not a big deal. It's just about reflecting on that and understanding that and allowing it to be a part of your process, because, things can come up and they can trigger some of our past thinking, or just our concepts towards life. Like, it can bring us back to a point in a place and time in life that wasn't ideal or whatever. So just respect that does happen, but it's not the end of the world as long as you can reflect on that and come, like, the reflection process, just seeing that you and understanding that you are kind of doing what you used to do, is actually a big indicator that you're a little bit more responsible than you used to be, because just because we can fall back into bad mental habits, doesn't necessarily mean that we're falling back in reverse to where we used to be. It's just an indicator of humbleness, like just humble yourself to where you're like, oh yeah, I could go back there, but I won't, because I see it now. I see it better, and I'm not going to allow myself to get to that point. So that's a part of the process too. And really, like, being honest with yourself and not playing the victim mode is very, very important. And I know that that's probably triggering for a lot of people, but it's good, because sometimes we got somebody else, we need somebody else to tell us about our bullshit, because we ain't gonna see it, because we're just too up in the clouds sometimes, and that's okay. But that's also why we reflect with each other. So I'm just saying, like, you can fall into these mental spaces that make you feel like maybe you aren't exactly where you want to be, or that you're not exactly where you should or could be, whatever. It's not the end of the world. It's not a defining factor. Again, just allow your empath ways to kind of shine a light towards where you can go and grow, and not be so defined by the darkness, because it is a part of you. Yes, your empath, your dark empath path is is going to really allow you to make better choices for yourself and also to see the world around you with much more clarity so you're not so affected by other people's bullshit. And you can kind of just do your own thing while still being a part of the world, which a lot of people will argue that a dark empath has such a debilitating lifespan, and there's so much, and I get it because we do go through a lot. I'm sorry, but I'm joking here. This is dark humor. But like it is respectfully a beautiful process. It is, and it is something to be noble about too. But at the same time, be humble too, because we all go through bullshit. We all go through bullshit. Like even the dude who has a bunch of money and like all these hot babes, like he be dealing with some stuff that's probably like not in our wavelength, but it causes his own form of chaos. So like we all go through our own bullshit. So don't just let what you see right in front of you define how you see the world, because there's so much that goes on in these layers and these curtains behind them. Like there's a lot of things. There's a wall behind that curtain. I mean, you can kind of see, it was a metaphor. It was a really terrible metaphor, and I told you that I'm bad at them. But it's just a way to understand life better, so it doesn't necessarily affect your mental space where you're constantly like pessimistic or you know overly optimistic because of your esotericism. I don't know if that was an actual word, but you know what I mean? Like just because you're this beautiful dark empath doesn't necessarily mean that you're better than anybody. It doesn't mean that you're worse or that you had experienced more than other people. Like we all go through things, and that's something that you need to respect as a dark empath. Like be humble about your approach towards the dark empath, because I see a lot of people on the spiritual side of the world who are completely full of themselves. And I'm calling y'all out because, although I got some love for y'all and y'all's teachings, but at the same time, you like expect some people to be on the same level and then belittle them or think of them negatively when they're not on the same frequency as you. And that's just bizarre to me. I'm just saying. So, be also humble about your efforts, but realize that you do have this strong head on your shoulder at the same time. So it's like it's a balance, yo. It's all about balance. Everything in this world is about balance, and that means balancing out your energies and your headspace too. So just as perspective, your dark empath abilities are going to allow you to see the world around you with much more clarity and intuitive abilities. So respect that part of you and make it to where it's not necessarily in this locked box inside some basement and closet or whatever. Like allow it to be yours, of course. And don't allow other people to attach themselves or cling themselves to your dark path energy, but allow other people to be a part of that process and be a part of that learning and understanding so you can teach, learn, and grow with the people around you. Okay, I hope that makes sense today. I know that it's not like the most revealing of the dark empath abilities, but I feel like we should really understand that we do go through things, but at the same time other people are going through things too. So your dark empath path wasn't so you could be some like light and shining armor just so you could attack the rest of the world. Like, be humble and stand your ground, ground yourself in your own energy, but don't let that affect other people because of your point of view, because you may have a shifted point of view because of some of the turbulence you experienced. And so you see the world all in one vague view and reality that may not necessarily be completely true, because a lot of us have like so much negative view on the world, and it's hard one to feed into for other people, so they're not really going to reflect with that, and they're not going to understand it. They're going to just see it very pessimistic and toxic. So it's just going to be you in your own mental space just causing chaos in your own life usually, or the direct people around you. So understand that about yourself too. I'm just saying, it takes balance. It takes equal give and take, but at the same time, what you went through was important and it's yours and it belongs to you and nobody else. So, I'm just saying, take everything today with a grain of salt, but at the same time, reflect on it so you can, again, utilize this ability to create and shape the world around you in a beautiful and healthy way. Okay, I love you guys. Bye.